If I told you about a man who holds a master's degree in electrical engineering from Oxford, recorded the highest car insurance payout in British history, and actually saved a private jet from crashing over Kenya.
You'd probably assume we were talking about, I don't know, a billionaire tech founder
Yo.
or like a real-life James Bond.
Right, exactly. You definitely wouldn't picture a guy walking around with a giant raw turkey stuck on his head.
No, definitely not. We certainly wouldn't expect someone whose entire global legacy is built on being utterly, almost silently ridiculous.
Because we have this ingrained assumption about world-famous comedians, we picture them as these loud, extroverted, fundamentally uncontained people who just suck all the oxygen out of every room.
Yeah, the classic class clown energy.
Exactly. But today's deep dive into this really fascinating stack of biographical articles, historical records, and visual portraits, it reveals a global comedy icon who operates completely differently.
Completely. We are looking at a man who is meticulously planned, highly engineered, and frankly, deeply introverted.
Rowan Atkinson.
Yeah, the one and only. A figure universally recognized for playing the bumbling Mr. Bean, yet who personally operates with the rigorous precision of a mathematician.
Which is wild to think about. And our goal here is to unpack how a shy, stuttering electrical engineer built this massive global empire of both silent physical comedy and biting verbal wit.
And more than that, we really want to figure out what his incredibly unique journey reveals to you about the actual mechanical gears of humor.
Okay, let's unpack this. To understand the global superstar, we really first have to strip away the fame and look at the deeply introverted child he once was.
Right, so he was born in 1955 in England.
Mm-hmm.
And the contrast between the performer we know and the child he was is just stark.
Oh, totally.
He was this intelligent, studious kid, but he suffered from a very noticeable stutter. And, I mean, for a child, a speech impediment transforms everyday communication into this constant source of anxiety.
Yeah, you're not the loud guy holding court in the cafeteria if you can't get the words out.
Exactly. He was the quiet observer.
There is this incredible generated image in the visual materials we're looking at. It shows a young Atkinson, maybe 8 or 9 years old.
Oh, the one with the books.
Yeah, that one. He's sitting on a rug, wearing these oversized round glasses, completely dwarfed by these massive stacks of books. He's reading one with a sun on the cover, and he just looks so intensely quiet. Isolated, but super focused.
It's a great image. And interestingly, he attended Durham Chorister School, where one of his schoolmates actually happened to be the future Prime Minister, Tony Blair.
Wait, really? Tony Blair and Mr. Bean went to school together.
Yeah. And think about the contrast there. While Blair was out on the playground developing the silver tongue and persuasive rhetoric of a career politician, Atkinson was retreating in the exact opposite direction.
Into books.
Right, into academics, into hard sciences, and into the predictable world of mechanics.
Which totally makes sense. He went on to secure top grades in his Science A levels, which are the UK's advanced high school exams, and eventually found himself at the Queen's College, Oxford.
And he wasn't there for theater.
No, not at all. He was there to earn a Master of Science in Electrical Engineering. There's actually another image here showing him as an Oxford student. He's surrounded by circuit boards, holding a soldering iron, looking perfectly at peace among all these oscilloscopes and tangles of wire.
If we connect this to the bigger picture, a speech impediment makes the physical world inherently unpredictable.
Yeah.
You can never be entirely sure when your own voice is going to betray you mid-sentence.
It's a loss of control.
Exactly. But a circuit board, that is a closed, beautifully predictable system. If you wire it correctly, if you follow the laws of physics, it works perfectly every single time. There's zero anxiety in a circuit board.
Which brings us to perhaps the most revealing detail of his entire early life. In 1978, he wrote his master's thesis.
Oh, this is my favorite part.
It's so good. The topic of his Oxford thesis was self-tuning control.
Right, and for anyone outside of engineering, a self-tuning control system is essentially a mechanism that constantly monitors its own output. It automatically adjusts its parameters to maintain optimal performance, even when outside conditions change.
You literally could not write a better metaphor for his approach to comedy.
It's perfect.
Huh.
He takes that exact engineering mindset, that methodical, precise self-tuning loop, and applies it to human behavior on a stage.
Because when he discovered the Dramatic Society at university, he realized the stage was just another closed system, right?
Yeah, exactly. He could memorize a script, control every variable, and essentially self-tune his communication completely free from the terrifying unpredictability of just like a casual pub conversation.
The stage gave him absolute control. But that still leaves a massive hurdle. I mean, how does an analytical engineer who literally struggles to get words out end up conquering the global entertainment world?
Well, he does the most brutally efficient engineering thing possible. He completely removes the point of failure.
If the words are the problem, delete the words.
Exactly. He discovered physical comedy. At university, he began experimenting with his face and his body, realizing that physical humor operates on an entirely different frequency than spoken language.
It bypasses the cognitive processing of words entirely.
Yes. And he was pulling heavy inspiration from the greats of silent cinema. People like Buster Keaton, and especially the French comedian Jacques Tati and his famous character Monsieur Hulot.
Oh, Tati is brilliant.
He is. And what Atkinson absorbed from Tati was that comedy didn't have to be frantic or fast. It could be deliberate. It could really take its time.
Which is such a contrast to the high-energy stand-up we usually see. And that deliberate pacing led directly to the birth of his most famous creation, debuting in 1990.
Mr. Bean.
Right, and Atkinson has described the character as entirely selfish and self-centered, basically a child in a man's body.
The visual portraits we have capture the essence of Bean so perfectly. Like there's this one image of him staring blankly, almost philosophically, at a massive alarm clock.
I love that one. And another one shows him standing outside his front door trying to oil the lock. But instead of an oil can, he's pouring olive oil onto a kitchen spatula and carefully trying to slide the spatula into the keyhole.
It is completely absurd.
Totally absurd, but he plays it with such intense, deadpan seriousness.
Well, the seriousness is the mechanism that makes the joke function. But we really should pause and look at the cultural footprint of this character because it is staggering.
It's huge.
We are talking about massive broadcast deals across Europe and Asia, 104 animated episodes, blockbuster feature films, and a diamond play button on YouTube for passing 10 million subscribers.
Yeah.
Bean is a global empire.
I do want to push back on this a little bit, though.
Okay, sure.
From a critical standpoint, physical comedy, the goofy faces, the falling down, the slapstick is very often dismissed as, like, lower comedy. Critics usually view it as much easier or less intellectually rigorous than clever, rapid-fire wordplay.
That's a very common critique, yeah.
So why did this specific character, doing these seemingly childish things with a spatula, resonate so deeply across vastly different cultures?
Well, I think people often mistake silence for simplicity. What Atkinson engineered with Mr. Bean isn't just a guy falling over.
Yeah.
It is a universal simulation of frustration and highly creative problem solving.
Oh, that makes sense.
Right. Think about the mechanics of everyday life. You don't need to speak a word of English to understand the sheer panic-inducing terror of an alarm clock going off when you are dead tired.
Yeah, or the annoyance of a door that just refuses to unlock.
Exactly. We all fight the physical world every single day. We are all negotiating with stubborn objects.
And losing, mostly.
Yes. And children watch Mr. Bean, and they see a peer, someone who is clumsy, who doesn't understand the rules, and who is constantly getting into trouble.
What about adults, though?
Adults watch Bean, and they see a release valve for their own daily frustrations with polite society. Bean doesn't care about social norms. If someone is standing in his way, he just moves them. He is basically our intrusive thoughts made visible.
That is such a good way to put it. Intrusive thoughts made visible.
And because he doesn't speak a specific language, he belongs to everyone. A viewer in Tokyo feels the exact same sense of ownership over the character as a viewer in London.
He essentially created an open-source comedy character. He managed to export British comedy by completely removing the British English.
Exactly.
But if physical comedy was his passport to the rest of the world, his verbal comedy was his absolute masterpiece back home. Because he didn't just conquer silence, he actually conquered the English language.
Oh, absolutely. While the Globe knows him for Bean, his crowning achievement in the UK is arguably the sitcom Blackadder.
Yeah, he had a breakthrough on a sketch show called Not the 9 O'Clock News, but Blackadder was a different beast entirely.
It really was. For anyone unfamiliar, the character of Edmund Blackadder is the exact polar opposite of Mr. Bean.
Yeah, if Bean is an innocent, silent child, Blackadder is a deeply cynical, terminally sarcastic, devious anti-hero. He is a literal verbal assassin.
The show traveled through different historical eras, relying on just razor-sharp timing and devastating insults. It won multiple BAFTAs, which are basically the British equivalent of the Emmys.
And Blackadder was even voted the third greatest TV character of all time in a Channel 4 poll.
The dialogue in that show is incredibly dense and complex. It requires a performer to really fire on all cylinders, linguistically speaking.
Which brings me to a genuine point of confusion. I'm struggling to connect the dots here. We've established he has a severe lifelong stutter.
Right.
He struggles to get words out in normal interviews. So how does he shoot an incredibly dialogue-heavy show like Blackadder without completely freezing up on set? How does the hardware support that software?
What's fascinating here is a well-documented psychological phenomenon regarding stuttering. The sources highlight that Atkinson's stutter practically vanishes the moment he is playing a character.
Wait, it just turns off like a switch.
Yeah, basically. For many people with a stutter, the impediment is deeply tied to the vulnerability of their own identity.
Mm.
When Rowan Atkinson is speaking as Rowan Atkinson, all the anxiety of unpredictable human interaction is present.
Right, the lack of control we talked about.
Exactly. But when he adopts a persona, when he puts on the metaphorical mask of Edmund Blackadder, he is no longer himself. The mask provides a psychological shield.
Oh, wow.
The words belong to the character, the rhythm belongs to the character, and therefore the stutter simply doesn't apply.
So the role itself acts as a kind of armor. The shy engineer uses the character of Blackadder to become fearlessly articulate.
Yes, that level of mathematical control over his performance is incredible.
It really is. But here's where it gets really interesting. You'd think a guy who thrives on perfectly controlled environments would hate unpredictability, right?
You think so?
Yet, outside of acting, his biggest passion involves strapping himself into machines where a single error means absolute disaster.
The contrast between his public personas and his private passions is staggering. Atkinson is a massive adrenaline junkie. He actively seeks out high-stakes, high-speed environments.
Yeah, going back to 1981, when he was just starting out in his career, he actually went and got a heavy goods vehicle license, a lorry driving license.
Just for fun.
Well, he got it just as a backup plan in case the whole acting thing didn't work out. He just genuinely loved heavy machinery.
And that fascination with machinery translated into a serious passion for competitive motor racing. He's not a celebrity who buys expensive cars just to let them sit in a climate-controlled garage.
Oh, not at all.
He drove a Renault 5 GT Turbo in a competitive one-make racing series for 2 whole seasons.
And we have to talk about the McLaren F1. He bought this incredibly rare multi-million-dollar supercar, and he drove it so hard that he crashed it. Twice.
Yeah, the second crash in 2011 was severe. He lost control, hit a tree, and the car literally caught fire.
That is terrifying.
He managed to walk away, thankfully, but the vehicle was severely damaged.
And the repair bill for that crash resulted in the largest car insurance payout in British history at the time. £910,000.
Almost £1 million just to fix the car.
Yes. And his reaction wasn't to lock it away or give up driving. He got right back behind the wheel. He went on the UK show Top Gear and set a blazing lap time of 1.42.2 in their reasonably priced car, actually beating Tom Cruise's time on the exact same track.
He takes the engineering of driving very seriously. He even holds strict philosophical views on the culture of cars. Like, he famously noted that he refuses to own a Porsche.
Really? Why?
He acknowledges they are wonderful machines, but he stated that somehow the typical Porsche people are not, he feels, his kind of people.
That is hilarious. But the ultimate real-life action movie moment, like the absolute ultimate test of physics and machines, has to be the airplane incident.
Oh, this story is wild.
In 2001, he's flying in a private plane over Kenya with his family. Suddenly, the pilot faints at the controls, just completely passes out.
In a situation where almost anyone else would completely panic, Atkinson unstraps himself, takes the controls of the aircraft, and physically keeps it in the air.
He kept a plane from crashing.
He maintained flight until the pilot eventually regained consciousness and was able to safely land the plane.
It's like he's a real-life James Bond, ironically hiding behind the goofy face of his spy parody character, Johnny English.
It's a great parallel.
It seems contradictory that a man who loves control would put himself in a flaming car or a falling plane. But, I mean, if you think like an engineer, a race car, or a plane isn't chaos, it's just a highly complex mechanical system where he gets to be the final control component.
Exactly. He is applying his self-tuning mindset to a physical machine. And that passion for testing the limits of a system doesn't stop at fast cars and airplanes. It extends directly into his fierce defense of free expression in the political and social arena.
This is a side of him very few people know about. And looking at the extensive advocacy documented in our sources, and just to be clear to you listening, we're simply laying out his positions as they are recorded, not endorsing them or taking a political side. Atkinson has been a highly prominent activist against censorship laws in the UK.
He views freedom of speech with the exact same absolute mechanical rigor that he views a circuit board. For him, society is a complex machine, and comedy is the stress test for that machine.
Right.
In 2005, he led a coalition of writers and actors against the racial and religious hatred bill. He argued that the freedom to criticize ideas, even sincerely held religious beliefs, is a fundamental human necessity.
He also successfully campaigned to reform Section 5 of the UK's Public Order Act. Previously, the act stated that simply delivering an insult could be grounds for arrest.
Which is incredibly broad.
Very broad. Atkinson and his coalition pushed heavily to have the word insulting removed from the law entirely. He argued that being insulated from insult is not a human right, and that the law was fundamentally restricting free expression.
His stance on this is completely absolutist. Like, in 2018, politician Boris Johnson was heavily criticized for a controversial joke comparing women wearing burqas to letterboxes. Atkinson wrote a letter to the Times defending Johnson's right to make the joke.
That was a huge media moment.
It was. Atkinson stated that as a lifelong beneficiary of the freedom to make jokes about religion, he believed the joke was pretty good.
And that specific stance drew heavy criticism from some of his own fans and former colleagues who felt the joke was Islamophobic and harmful. But Atkinson didn't back down.
No, he really didn't.
He has also spoken out forcefully against what is termed cancel culture. In 2021, he described it as the digital equivalent of the medieval mob roaming the streets looking for someone to burn. He argued that social media algorithms are creating a simplistic, binary view of society where if you aren't perfectly aligned with the mob, you are targeted for cancellation.
His willingness to step into controversial waters even circles back to his engineering background. He recently wrote an op-ed in The Guardian criticizing the current environmental impact of electric vehicle batteries.
Which is funny because he was an early adopter of EVs himself, right?
He was. But he argued the public was being duped about their immediate environmental benefits. And this piece was actually cited in a House of Lords report, which partly blamed Atkinson for damaging electric vehicle sales in the UK.
He essentially tanked national EV sales with a single article. That is serious influence.
It really is.
I have to ask, though, how is the public supposed to reconcile these two vastly different images? On one hand, you have this silent, goofy Mr. Bean dropping a turkey on his head. On the other hand, you have this highly articulate, provocative, and sometimes polarizing political advocate writing op-eds and fighting national legislation.
This raises an important question about the role of the comedian in society. We often just want our entertainers to entertain us and go away. But Atkinson's advocacy proves that his comedy isn't just silly for the sake of being silly.
Right. There's a foundation there.
Exactly. It is rooted in a deep philosophical belief that absolutely nothing, no institution, no religion, no social norm should be immune from being pulled apart and examined. To an engineer, if you make a law saying certain parts of a machine are illegal to touch, you can never fix the machine. If you aren't allowed to mock something, the system is fundamentally broken.
So what does this all mean? We started out looking for the anatomy of a world-famous comedian, expecting to find chaos and loud energy.
Well, we found the exact opposite.
We found Rowan Atkinson, a man who is an Oxford-educated electrical engineer, a high-speed adrenaline junkie who crashes million-dollar supercars and saves airplanes, a master of universal physical silence, a master of biting verbal sarcasm, and a fierce, unyielding political advocate for free speech.
I think for you, the listener, Atkinson's life serves as a brilliant, unconventional reminder about the true nature of limitations.
Yeah.
We so often view a stutter or a deep, paralyzing shyness as a barrier to success.
Like something to be fixed?
Yes, we think it's something that needs to be cured before we can achieve anything. But in Atkinson's case, those weren't barriers, they were parameters.
Oh, I love that. Parameters.
They were the precise engineering constraints that forced him to build a completely different, highly innovative communication system. If he had been a loud, confident, perfectly fluent child, he might never have needed to invent the silent, universal language of Mr. Bean. Our greatest limitations can often force us to build our greatest creations.
It's like he looked at a broken circuit board, and instead of trying to patch the faulty wires, he just went ahead and invented wireless technology.
That is a perfect way to put it.
Which leaves me with a final thought for you to mull over. We live in a world now that is entirely built on relentless speed. We are dominated by hyperfast TikToks, 15-second viral trends, and constant, loud stimulation.
It's nonstop.
If a character like Mr. Bean, with his deliberate, slow-paced, silent, physical comedy were created from scratch today, would his genius still be able to conquer the world? Or would the modern, lightning-fast algorithm completely overlook the quiet engineer? It really makes you wonder what kind of quiet brilliance we might be scrolling right past every single day.